It's time for Inside Oakwood with Dr. Leslie Pollard. He's here with members of his leadership team from Oakwood University. As you know, colleges and universities are in full-out emergency mode due to COVID-19, and they're here with us right now to let us know what is happening inside Oakwood University. Dr. Leslie Pollard, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Donna. Thank you. And I am delighted this morning. Thank you very much, Donna. I'm delighted this morning to be here on Inside Oakwood, and this is a new and expanded edition of the work that we've been doing every Thursday morning. So I'm really excited about what we're sharing. You know, right now we're in a unique period. We're in a period of modified operation. March 19, Governor Kay Ivey issued an order that all schools, private and public, should close in order to stymie the spread of the coronavirus. So all of us are in emergency mode right now, as you described so beautifully just a moment ago. And so we are ready here, and we've got some wonderful guests with us this morning who are really going to give us an insider look at what's happening on the inside of Oakwood. This morning I have with me Dr. John Anderson, who is our Associate Provost for Graduate Education and Online Learning. He has been at Oakwood many, many years. Welcome, Dr. Anderson. We welcome you this morning.
Thank you.
And then we have Dr. Benn Marshall, Assistant Provost for Undergraduate Education and Chair of our Oakwood University Responsiveness Task Force. Now that's about, for those who are on the outside, that's about 20 people. 20, Karen? 20?
Almost 30.
Almost 30 people with a lot of moving parts and different responsibilities in order to keep the institution delivering its educational product across the next whatever period. So we're excited that they are here this morning, and they're going to give us some insider insights into what is actually happening right now, how we're serving our students, how we're serving our constituencies, how the mission of Oakwood continues in spite of this disruption.
Right. So we do still have some students on campus, right?
Yes, we do. We do. Many of our students have evacuated, but we do have students who, for whatever reasons, and there may have been multiple of them, Dr. Benn Marshall, who have stayed on the campus. Could you say a little bit about that?
Sure. We wanted to make sure that we continued with a continuity of care, and that those students who weren't able to go home, those who may have been international students or for whatever reasons couldn't get back to their cities, that we provided a safe haven for those students. So we have about 20 students still on our campus who are still here.
Okay. And so are they, are they just living and boarding on campus? Are there any activities or anything going on? How are they spending their time?
So we're housing them. We are housing them in our residence areas, and so our deans are taking care of them, and no operations in terms of all of the events have been canceled, so they're pretty much just doing full-blown classes, I should say.
So they're online, because actually I had a student to come to me yesterday, and they were like, Don, you got to help me. We are online, and I don't know what to do. So can you tell us a little bit about those online courses that are taking place?
Sure, I'll refer to Dr.
Sure, and Dr. Anderson really has been the kind of the czar of driving us, pushing us toward making sure that we can deliver our capability online. He's got a lot of experience at making our team capable in this regard. And so, Dr. Anderson, would you say a little bit about that? About how online delivery looks in this new environment in which we find ourselves?
Oh, thank you. Yes, we have a team that's led by Dr. Joyce Johnson, our Director for Online Learning, that's leading out in our conversion from traditional face-to-face classes to online instruction. Like many universities, we've been engaged in different aspects of online learning for years. With the invention of course management systems, and our system is called D2L, we have embedded different characteristics of online learning even in our face-to-face classes. So basically what we had to do was to come up with a conversion plan to take those face-to-face classes and embed more characteristics of online learning. And we had about a week to do that. So we first, once the decision was made to move to remote learning, we put together a plan to give us direction on how to accomplish that. That plan helped us to identify the resources that we needed. And then we began the process of supporting the faculty and making that conversion. So we began instruction today, as a matter of fact.
Right. And so this is new to a lot of people on campus though, right? Including our faculty and staff that have never done this before. And
Well, this is new as it relates to totally remote
Right.
learning.
Yes.
Now, we currently have online programs
Right.
on campus. And so we're not new to online learning.
Exactly.
What we had to do was to take our face-to-face classes, all of our
the
face-to-face
classes.
classes, and convert them with more characteristics of online learning.
That sounded like a huge process. You got that done in a week.
In a week.
And remember, Donna, I mean, some people went from 0 to 60
Right.
in terms of the conversion, and we're very grateful to all of our faculty who are listening. We know that we have faculty and we have staff and we have employees who are listening as well. We're very grateful. It was a Herculean effort, and it's still in process in
Right.
many, many ways. I think one of the things that I would want to say as we launch out into this today is let's be generous with ourselves. Let's be forgiving with ourselves. I read a wonderful article just early this morning, about 3 o'clock, from a blogger who is also an academic working at the University of Arkansas.
Okay.
She wrote a blog, million views of this blog, and she said, you know, one of the first things we need to do in this new environment is release our overly ambitious expectations. This is going to be a journey for everybody.
Yes.
Most of us as faculty members have never taught in the online environment.
Right.
And most of our students have never learned in the online environment. So let's be generous with each other. Let's forgive ourselves. And let's enjoy the journey together, because that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Dr. Karen, you worked with the team that helped coordinate all of the activity that we're doing. You said about 30 people or so, plus subgroups of the overall university responsiveness team. You began March 2nd, we really started, although we started this conversation, as I recall, on February 23rd, when we were beginning to evacuate students. For many who don't know, we have students who are learning abroad. We began to evacuate students back home.
Right.
Would you say a little bit about what that process looked like from the inside when you get all of these academics and administrators together for such an important task? How do we manage in an environment in which everything is changing on a day-by-day basis?
Yeah, we initially started when we were concerned about our students who were studying abroad. We had no idea that it was actually going to impact us in such an impactful way. And so Dr. Pollard had initially formed a small work group to really address the issues and concerns for our students who were studying abroad, because we had students in Italy, we had students in France, we had students in Spain, we had students in Argentina. And how we were going to make sure that we got them home, and if they didn't want to come home, what did that look like for us as an institution? And so initially started those conversations, and then it really escalated to we needed to start looking as an institution of how would we make sure that we maintain continuity of operations in the event that we were impacted. And so we formed, Dr. Pollard actually formed a task force of individuals who represented different constituencies on the campus, both faculty, staff, administrators. And so we had individuals from academic operations, we had individuals from student services, from missions, retention, we had individuals from research and faculty development, individuals from advancement and development, just all across the campus who really touched our students in various types of ways. And so even within our task force, we had work groups. And so we would meet and really try to make plans for how do we continue the operations of the institution, how do we address the food aspect for the students, if we have to shut operations. Dr. Anderson talked about making sure that the class aspect continued on for our students so that they did not lose any time. We had students who are graduating. And so how do we make sure that all those pieces come together and we make decisions that were viewed as caring decisions and not just our concern for just maintaining the operations of the institution. And so we've even been meeting about 3 to 4 times a week for several hours. I know sometimes individuals wondering when are we going to get the word out about what our decisions are.
Right, that was going to be my next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, they wanna-
What were some of those decisions? Because that's what everybody wants to know. What are some of the decisions now at this time? But go ahead and finish your thought there.
Yeah, they individuals like, you're taking a long time to make decisions, but we wanted to make sure that we were touching each and every aspect. It really does.
This is new to everybody,
It
so you can just jump
really
and make,
is. So it's been a learning experience for us. I think last Friday was probably one one of our longest meetings that we initially had, and that was about a 4 or 5 hour meeting. And then it took us about another 4 hours just to draft a communication statement so that we were touching everything. So
Right.
what about those graduating seniors? What about the students who had to leave campus? What about the ones who needed to stay? What about their food? What about their meal plan?
Right.
What about their housing? Do they get money back? And so all of those things we had to really think about and address so that we made sure that we weren't leaving anything out.
All right, so that's where we are right now. Can you share some of those decisions that were made about graduation, about refunds, because that's what people want to know now, and students that are listening want to know, okay, where's my refund, or am I getting that, how are we going to handle that? All of those types of major difficult decisions for a university or college, because this means that you're putting out money that you need to operate, but you have to do the right thing. So what are some of those decisions that came out on
Well,
Friday?
of course, we've made decisions about that. We've decided, of course, to refund to our students both unused room and board, and that is to credit back to students. So there's a difference between a credit and a refund, right?
Gotcha.
So credit to their account. So that's really important to make a distinction for all of our students who are listening. We want you to continue your matriculation. We are working right now on graduation, and we're looking at some dates on the calendar. We're trying to figure out what will be the best dates, as are many other institutions. So even as we put a date together and launch it, and we have a few days to do that, even as we launch that date, we want to make sure that it's a reasonably good date, because we wouldn't want to change it again. But again, everything in the environment is changing.
Right.
So I've asked the team, give us some dates. Let's lock in on them, but at the same time, let's remember that we need to try as best we can to forecast what would be a date, given the changing environment, an environment which everything is changing on a daily basis. With Dr. Anderson and the online delivery part of what we're talking about, that's a journey in and of itself, and there have been important decisions made just about that, and maybe Dr. Anderson could share just a few of those.
Yes, the first decision that we made was to suspend face-to-face instruction and suspend it for a week.
Okay.
And then that week took us till today. Now, I want to emphasize that even though we're with modified operations, we're still working under the existing academic structure. And so we still have our deans in place responsible for their colleges. We still have our department chairs responsible for their respective departments and their programs within those departments. And then, of course, we have our faculty in place. So students still communicate via email, telephone, text messages with your professors, with your chairs and deans as necessary. So we're still following that same structure. It's modified as it relates to the actual delivery of the instruction. And then also, we don't have the opportunity for face-to-face, but our faculty will still maintain their office hours. They simply have virtual office hours now.
Okay, so they're using, what is it, Zoom and other
Yes.
video
Yes,
conferencing
well,
with students if necessary?
we've actually purchased an enterprise-wide Zoom system, which
Okay.
is being implemented this week. So there will be some face-to-face, but it won't be traditional classroom, face-to-face. And we've been using Zoom for many of our administrative meetings, which has worked very, very well. And when we think about an institution, of course, we think about students. They're at the center of our institution because that's why we exist, that's why we do it, right? But on the other hand, we have employees who are listening this morning. And so we've begun some work. I'd like to turn to Dr. Karen, and you'll hear more about this as our other administrators come forward. But the teleworking proposal is now in play and being developed as we speak. We've had hours of meetings about that. And maybe Dr. Karen could say just a few things about what that looks like at this stage of development.
Right.
So Dr. Prudence Pollard is actually chairing our Telework subgroup. And so Dr. Anderson sits on that as well, and so he can probably add a couple of pieces. But they actually were commissioned last Wednesday, and they have put in several, I think, how many you think, John? Maybe about almost 20?
Many hours.
Yeah, many hours to really make sure that we keep our employees. We've got to make sure that we keep our employees working for the institution, because as you know, this is a really difficult time, and so that continuity of care is really critical. So how do we make sure that those individuals who are working for us are able to work remotely, and what does that look like? And so there have been some discussions about what does that look like, how do we put that in place, and when do we really roll that out? And so we were forced to roll that out immediately on Thursday when we got notification, and so we're in the throes of that. And John, I don't know if you want to add a couple of
Yes,
elements to
that the committee chaired by Dr. Prudence Pollard, their primary focus is to come up with a telecommunications plan. And I believe that plan will be submitted to administration today.
Okay.
And in that plan, we're looking at what modifications do we need to make to our current systems? How do we need to modify our current policies? And what new policies do we need to put in place? Also identifying what are the resources that are needed in order for people to effectively work from home.
Right, right.
And so it's looking at the entire operations. We had individuals from different components and different parts of the campus interfacing. And I believe it's a very, very comprehensive plan, and it'll guide us. And it's an addition to our existing disaster plan.
Yeah, that sounds really, really good, and it sounds like it has some dollar signs behind it too.
Oh, it
How
does. It's
is
costly.
the
It's
university
costly.
handling that?
Well, I just saw last night the financial impact assessment on the institution, and right now we're at $1,300,000 worth of impact, as we can determine it. Just the refunding piece of what we're doing is somewhere around $700,000. And we'll have our finance officer as a part of this conversation too, and we'll talk about that. I think for this morning, Donna, what's important for our listeners, employees, students, constituents, alumni, and friends to hear is that the university is vibrant, that it's moving forward, it's delivering its mission, but we must also appreciate the degree of difficulty of what's being described. We are actually operating under a completely different construct other than the one for which we were originally founded. And so teleworking, delivering education online, these are whole different constructs. And part of what I think I'm realizing as I think about this is that we're actually teaching remotely. And online in the traditional sense is quite complicated. There's decades of learning science that goes into that. We're in emergency mode. We're saying we are going to continue our education, we're going to deliver it online, and we're going to do it in a way that is enjoyable and acceptable and beneficial and propels our students forward. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at a degree of difficulty that's difficult. And when I had to smile when Dr. Karen said, people say, well, I think you did. You said, well, won't they hurry up and make the decision? I remembered one of my favorite proverbs, because I collect proverbs, right? Because that's what keeps me sane. And the proverb goes like this: nothing shall be impossible to the man who doesn't have to do it. Nothing's impossible. If you don't have to do it, nothing's impossible, right? You can walk on water if you don't have to do it. And I wanted to, so therefore, I want to express my appreciation. The other piece that's important is that we've made a commitment to retaining our employee base. There are people being laid off left and right. So we've got to all work. We've got to all work to make sure that we're able to do that. But we've made that commitment, and we're public about it. Because, see, on the backside of this, somebody's going to die and somebody's going to grow. We're going to be the ones who grow. And we're going to need everybody as we do that. So it's how you approach these moments that determines the character of your institution. And we've made that commitment. We're all in. We're there, and now everybody's on board with that, and we're going to work. This is not a vacation.
Right. I think a lot of people got to get that.
Can somebody say that?
It's
Yeah,
not a
get that in your head.
Right? It's not a vacation.
Remember, we got to work. We got to work more now than we did before, because suddenly we're working in a foreign environment.
Right.
But the piece that's important here is, while it is not a vacation, there are things that we can learn that will make us better for the next stretch of the journey. But there are institutions who will not survive what I'm calling the 3 body blows of this moment. There are 3 body blows, if I can describe them quickly. The first one has already happened. We've already gotten the first gut punch. We had to change operations, send students away, and send money with them. Many institutions won't survive that. The second is coming, summer school. Many institutions depend upon summer school for a level of income that they wouldn't have had ordinarily. So summer school. And then the third is fall enrollment. And if one cannot position themselves to absorb those three punches, then they're not going to survive. And so a part of what we want to do is to be in that position where this institution survives. So, Dr. John, tell us a little bit about how the teaching looks in the D2L environment versus the way it looked in the classroom environment. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yes, in the classroom, most of the exchanges occurred between, of course, the faculty member and the student, and primarily through a lecture mode, hopefully through some interactive type of activities, where everyone's in the same room, you can see, you can hear, and you can interact with them.
And most of our academics were trained like that.
They were trained like that and very comfortable with that mode of operation.
Yes.
So when you're switching to online, you have to figure out how can I simulate that in a virtual environment? Because I'm not lecturing, but yet I still have to find a way of emphasizing material. And so how can I do that in an online environment? How can I simulate the exchanges between one another? Because you learn a lot by the questions that your peers ask and the responses. And so within the D2L, our learning management environment, you can simulate that dialogue with discussion forums, where everyone can just write in their comments, and everybody can respond to those comments. But you have to do it in such a way that you encourage the students to engage. Just like in classroom, sometimes you have to encourage people to get involved. So you have to build that into that online portal, that online mechanism. And then, of course, testing. You know, you're doing online testing now. Or you can say, okay, instead of testing, we're going to do papers, reflection papers and different things of that nature. But for a traditional teacher, you got to say, oh, they can cheat if they do online testing. Well, there are tools within D2L that can prevent those things. You know, you can't totally eliminate it.
No.
Not even in face-to-face, unfortunately. But there are tools there that you can control, you can monitor, and so forth. In D2L, I think they have responders lockdown browsers, what it's called. And you can actually look at students as they take their tests. To make sure that student that's taking the test is actually the student that's enrolled in your class. So there are different ways of simulating. You just have to, again, unleash your imagination now. And really, once you get over the shock of having to do it, it's a lot of fun.
And just, I guess, also just kind of thinking differently on how you do your tests. You know, I am a product of online education, and they don't give you multiple choice. You don't get any multiple choice. They give you questions. You've got to answer them in essay form to make sure that you are actually learning something. And what you do a lot of online is reading. When you do online, it's just so much more reading because you really are teaching yourself. But that key, what really was encouraging for me when I went through was that my teachers were always available. We could call them and we could talk to them by email, and they always responded. And I think that was the one thing that really encouraged me when I was doing my online education, my master's at the University of Maryland. So I think, and we're all set up to do all of those types of things with our students, right?
Yes, but I want to make sure that the students understand that they may see some multiple choice questions. So don't walk away and say, oh, I heard on the radio, no multiple choice questions, because that capability is still there.
Yeah,
but they will be doing more writing.
Absolutely.
They will be doing more. But before we leave, though, I would like to talk about the resources that are available to assist our students. And so I want to encourage our students to go out to the Oakwood website and look for the online learning portal. There's an online learning portal that will make available in one place a lot of resources, such as for those students that their classes utilize submissions of a lot of papers.
Mhm.
Well, and using the APA style.
Right.
They can get the latest APA guidelines through that portal.
Mhm.
Also, we have a virtual writing lab set up in that portal.
Library too, maybe?
They can access the library through that portal,
Great.
as well as go directly to the library's webpage. And then also for those students that want to increase their ability to navigate in D2L, there are tutorials there that they can access. So please, number one, go and look for the online learning portal. A lot of resources there that will assist you. And we've been using that portal for our existing online programs. And again, we encourage our students, reach out to your faculty member,
Right.
email them, call them. And many faculty members have already provided their cell numbers so that their students can text them. Because we're still here. We're still here. We're working for our students and their success.
Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Pollard, we have someone else on the line. It's your Vice President of Mission, Enrollment, Services, and Retention, David Richardson. He's on the line right now.
Hey, Dr. Richardson.
Dr. Richardson, you there?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, Doc, how you doing? Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting, Doc. And you'll be with us on Wednesday, and we'll get a chance on Wednesday to talk in more detail about the kinds of support systems that Dr. Anderson has already described. Dr. Anderson described some of the technological supports that are available, but also we have in our Center for Student Success, we also have supports that take a human face, and counseling and advising and all of those other things that students need as we make this transition. Tutoring, of course, tutoring. So we're going to have Dr. Richardson and members of that team with us on Wednesday to do some conversation about that. So students will have these resources.
Okay, great. All right, so Dr. Pollard, is there anything that our listening audience can do to help Oakwood University at this time? We do have students, I know we're taking care of them, but is there anything that we can talk to our audience about?
Absolutely.
If there's somebody out there saying, I want to do something to help, what can they do?
Oh, absolutely. They can go to the Oakwood University giving page, www.oakwood.edu, and they can contribute to the welfare of students. It's so important for us to be able to support students. We have students who, I say they're in three categories. There are students who can go home, and they can go home, and that represents a continuum. Then we also have home-averse students. They could go home, but it's such an unpleasant environment and experience that they would rather be here. We've made accommodations for those kinds of students. And then we have students who are also students who are international students who at this time clearly cannot and should not probably leave the country with the expectation of getting back in. And so our institution and our leadership team has been very generous about that. And I'd like to turn to Dr. Benn to just say a little bit more about maybe how that looks. Food is provided and those kinds of things that are available. And so this becomes a way that persons in the community can actually help, because we have students who cannot go anywhere except to stay here on the campus. Dr. Benn.
Thank you, Dr. Pollard. I think that is important because, as you know, because we had to shut down modified operations, I think is what we're saying. Our modified operations, our dining hall services are closed. The market is closed. And so for our students, they're actually in residence areas where they will actually have to cook their meals.
Oh, wow.
And so if the community wants to be able to contribute food for our students, I think that would be extremely helpful.
Can you tell us how they can do that? How they get on campus before you go to the next thing? Because I know I have some people out there have already called and said, well, do they need food? Because I would bring them some groceries or something. So how do we get that on campus?
Okay, so I think
before
that
you go to your
one of the keys would be to contact Dean David Knight, and he will be a part of this too, and we'll make sure that they get that information. And as we wrap up, it's important to know that on Wednesday we'll have more persons here talking about how, of course, our brothers and sisters and constituents can actually help. But I want to say thank you, Donna, on
Thank
behalf
you.
of our Inside Oakwood leadership team. Thank you so much to Dr. Anderson and to Dr. Karen Ben Marshall. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for what you shared. It was very informative and very empowering. May God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been Inside Oakwood University with Dr. Leslie Pollard and members of his leadership team, and we'll be back with you again on Wednesday and Thursday now during this time, and we want you to join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8:30, where he'll be here with his leadership team to talk about Inside Oakwood University. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back with more praise after this.